What's up, Dunwoody? Welcome back to the podcast. It's all about Dunwoody, Georgia. My name is Matt Weber. I'm the host. The show is brought to you by Dr. Brett Friedman with Village Orthodontics. If your teeth are jacked up and you live in the Dunwoody area, you should definitely hit up Dr. Brett Friedman. But I'm here today with Mike Petchenik, who you came on the podcast back in like 2019, and you just stuck out to me. Jennifer Betcher speaks highly of you, and you've helped me out with business a couple times in recent past. And I just want to have you on. I don't even know where to start here. I went through it. I've been trying to write down interesting topics that I wanted to talk about, but I think the people are here to hear about Dunwoody. So you were a or I guess Channel 2, right? Channel 2 reporter.
Yeah, Channel 2. Yeah.
And you've covered Dunwoody a lot. So let's talk about Dunwoody a little bit. Tell us your thoughts on Dunwoody. You live close by. You've seen maybe more of the city than anybody else.
Yeah. Well, first things first, shout out to Dr. Brett. He is my orthodontist for my children, and I will vouch for the fact that if your teeth are jacked up, he is the man to go to.
Yeah.
So,
look at this.
Yeah.
He did mine. He did my wife's. He's done a whole bunch of my friends. Does a great job.
He is a mensch. He is a good guy.
Yes.
So, send your kids there for sure. Yeah. So I spent 12 years at Channel 2. My assignment for the bulk of that time was the North Metro area, which included Dunwoody. I do live, full disclosure, just across the line over in Fulton County, Sandy Springs, but we are in
You're
Dunwoody.
Still welcome here.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite. Yeah, we're in Dunwoody frequently. We have great friends there who live there. And in fact, I was just there the other day, and I was thinking to myself, gosh, I really love this community. Like, I don't know. It feels like a warm hug every time I cross that line. I don't know. It's just about just the people are friendly. The neighborhoods are great. The schools are awesome. Everybody's just so kind. Not that they're not kind where I am, but I just have a fondness in my heart for the city of Dunwoody. I mean, I covered the former mayor. I covered the current mayor. I covered the city council. I covered the police department. Covered one of the, most heinous crimes to ever happen in Dunwoody over there at the village.
Big one. That's why a lot of people know your name, probably.
Yeah, I mean, I covered all of the trials. There were 3 trials associated with that case, and we did talk about that on the very last time. In fact, when you and your co-host came out, we sat in a gazebo in front of the former AJC headquarters there on Perimeter Center. And if I recall, in the middle of it, some guy started a leaf blower, which is Murphy's Law. Like, if you're going to do a podcast outside, be prepared for lawn people.
You should just not do podcasts outside, really. But
that's
it's funny. I re-listened to that show because I didn't want to go over the same stuff, and that's so funny. It was like right in the middle. We were like, all right, cut. Yes.
We stopped and started, and and he meant well. Like, he wasn't doing it to ruin the podcast, but he had a job to do. But interestingly, I mean, AJC is no longer in that building. They ended up moving it over to the Cox headquarters, which is just in Sandy Springs, of course, to make room for the High Street Dunwoody project, which seems to be coming along.
Open. Oh, it's going to open someday.
Yeah, someday. Yeah.
You've probably been covering that for 15 years?
Well, I feel like that Hammond Drive corridor, just from Sandy Springs all the way to Ashford Dunwoody, it has changed so much in the last 15 years. I remember when there were a bunch of little shopping centers, older 70s era shopping centers, kind of on I guess that's the south side of Hammond. And now I don't recognize that area. You got State Farm, you got, I remember there was a Cheddar's or something on the corner there, and a Fuddruckers, I feel like, right there at that intersection, which is now all State Farm. And then you've got all those apartments. It's so densely populated over there. I used to joke that to get home from the bureau, which was the AJC, to my house, without traffic, it should be about a 10-minute drive. But there would be afternoons where it would take me a good 90 minutes to get down that corridor or just anywhere around the perimeter. So I think that's the biggest change, right? Is just the population density in this area. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think Dunwoody is so cool because there's that dense population there. And then you get out to what's just suburbs, it's just single family homes. And it's a real estate agent's dream. It's every house is almost the same all the way around.
5-4 and a door, right? That's the style. I had a realtor once describe the homes in Dunwoody to be that way. 5-4 and a door.
Yep. And some split level, some older homes, but everything's about the same age, and pretty much cut and paste. So yeah, what were some? So I want to talk about your news days still. I just listened to a podcast or a YouTube video that was about the Chicken Man and the marshals showing up there. It ends up being a kind of a sad story, but tell that story because it's just insane.
Yeah, so this was back, gosh, I want to say almost 10 years ago already. And there was a guy who lived in Roswell who was raising chickens in his backyard in a suburban area, very much like what you would find in Dunwoody.
Yeah, not allowed.
And not allowed. And he had chicken coops in his backyard, and he was in a battle with the city over what he felt was his right to do that. And it got to the point where the city put him in jail for raising these chickens. And while he was in jail, so we had covered the plight of this guy, and
You
because
got
it
to
just
stand
made
for
for
what you believe in, you know?
yeah,
You
and it
wanna
made
raise
for good
chickens.
TV. His name is Andrew Wardis. He was a great, advocate for what he was doing, and he was a
Yeah.
character, which always makes for good TV. And while he was in jail, for an extended period of time, he was late on his mortgage payments and ended up going into foreclosure. And so the county sent the marshals to his home to essentially evict him on behalf of the bank. And he called me the afternoon this was happening, and he said, "Mike, I need you to get to my house because the marshals are out front and I don't know what's about to go down." And I think we were probably 15, 20 minutes away. And he would call me from time to time with different things, and I didn't
Was that
always
normal?
drop everything and just go over there. But I was like, all right, something told me like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Why don't we just go check it out? We've got time.
Yeah.
And he called a couple of other media outlets too. So we all got there. We were all parked outside the front of the house, and the marshals were there. And he calls me, I don't know, 15 minutes later. And he says, "Mike, I need you to tell the marshals to get off my property." And I said, "Why?" And he's like, "Just tell them to get off my property." And at that point, I put my phone on speaker because I had a sense something was going to be happening. And I told my photographer to roll in the conversation. And he's, telling me how he loves me and thank you for everything you've done. I appreciate you, giving me a platform to tell my story. So I said, "Sure, that's my job." So I went over and I told the marshals, like, "Hey guys, I don't know what's about to go on here, but he's asking you to just step back from the property. If I were you, you probably should do that." So they actually listened. And no sooner had they like stepped off the curb onto the street, we heard a huge boom and the house exploded. The guy had lined his home with explosives, knowing that this was going to happen, getting the media there,
Crazy.
and lit the fuse, and kaboom. I mean, we were probably, I don't know, 15, 20 feet away from the house when it blew up. And my photographer was rolling at the time. So you just like see this, like the ground shook. And I remember like being in a daze and calling the newsroom. And I think I used some expletive to say, like, "Get the chopper up now. Like, this is," and the Simon editor at the time, a guy named Paul Powers, was like, what are you talking about?" I was like, just listen to me. This guy blew up his house. And sure enough, that it caught on fire, and unfortunately, he passed away in the process of this. So he committed suicide, and it was
That's
horrific
insane.
because yeah, I mean, just I can't
Not
even
normal
imagine.
Roswell. Not normal Roswell activity there.
Not normal anywhere activity, really, if
That's
you think about it. I mean, it was just, yeah, it was really sad. This guy was just a tormented soul, and felt like he had no other out than to
yeah.
do this. And yeah, I mean, so it was a big story for weeks. And
And he
and
trusted
it,
you to tell that story.
yeah, he did. And I appreciate the fact that he did. And to this day, I still try to honor his memory in the best way that I can. It's
Yeah.
hard to not tell that story and how it ended and not feel like it's being sensationalized, but really, this is a story about a troubled person who just committed suicide. And I
Yeah.
if anything, I hope people learn from that, that if you are in that headspace, that you get help, you call and get help. That there are other ways to handle it than to do that. I mean,
Right.
he was making a statement, and he certainly did.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody that's listening to this understands that you are a talented storyteller And I
Thank you.
think you've taken those skills to your new business. It's a Petchenik Media Group. And let's lead into that. Where have you gone
Yeah.
with Petchenik Media Group?
Yeah. So, well, thank you for
Because
asking
this is
that.
also very interesting to me.
What's that? The what?
This is also really interesting to me. Just the whole
Oh, yeah,
social
sure.
media and yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, so after I left Channel 2, I did a short stint at a healthcare technology company. I just needed like a complete change of pace. So, like, a midlife crisis, midlife career crisis. I was like, I'm just going to go, completely change gears. And it was a great experience. I was doing, communications and PR and social media and all kinds of stuff for them. And then about 9 months ago, I decided that it was time to kind of bet on myself and launched my own venture, which is Petchenik Media Group, and sort of lean into all of the skills that I picked up along the way as a journalist, and use those to help people tell their stories in their small businesses, in their lives, whatever it is they need help with. And so I kind of bill myself as a media consultant because I don't just do PR, I don't just do content creation or video production. I kind of do a lot of different things. And so it's been a lot of fun so far. I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I like the strategy built around, how to grow a business and how to tell the business's story, because I get caught up in, not posting anything for a while and then finding something that's interesting, posting. I need to have like some sort of plan around the whole thing, a strategic goal in mind. And that
Yeah.
seems like you've done really well with that. You do the personal injury that kind of stuck out, the day in the life of videos. What was that about?
Yeah, so one of the services that I offer is to the legal community, and there are a couple of applications for that. So if you're a criminal defense attorney and you have a client who is facing prison time, and you get to the point where you need to offer character witnesses on their behalf, what I produce are called mitigation videos. And what it is essentially it's the character witnesses who might take the stand during a sentencing hearing, but I package it up into a documentary style video that
Yeah.
can be, and it's admissible, that can be played for the judge or the jury or whomever. In some cases, it's for the prosecutor pretrial as they're trying to sort of figure out where to go with the case. And we tell the story of the person, who has been accused of committing the crime and sort of their backstory as to, that they're redeemable, that this is a
Yeah.
human being here. They made a mistake, but they have a family who loves them. They have friends who care about them. And so we try to tell those stories through that. On the
Yeah. And
personal injury side, go
they
ahead.
might not be as articulate as you are on the stand when they're under all the pressure.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. And what we're able to do is capture their sentiments on video, and give them a chance to sort of rephrase their answers and get it just to where it needs to be, so that that they're not feeling the pressure of sitting on a stand in front of an entire courtroom of people. And we find that in general, these videos do have an impact, that judges are more likely to give somebody a lesser sentence, having heard from those who are in their sphere, because they understand that this is also a human being who messed up again, who understands it and is owning up to their mistakes, but who is redeemable and has people that care about them on the outside. And it's very interesting. I saw a piece in the New York Times over the summer about this phenomenon of these mitigation videos, and there is a group in New York City doing these, film students are doing these on behalf of Legal Aid Society to help defendants who can't afford more expensive production houses to do these kinds of videos. And I think they said something like, of the 18 they had produced, like I want to say 15 to 16 of them actually produced a lower sentence, and it was because of the video. So there is definitely proof out there that it works. And then on the personal injury side, what that entails is telling the story of in the day in the life of the person who's been injured, or the family member of the person who maybe was killed in a wrongful death kind of situation, so that the other side, in most cases it's an insurance company, understands that this is a human being, this is a person who was living their life, who got wrongfully killed or maimed or whatever the case may be, and to tell their story so that the insurance company understands that these people are worthy of being reimbursed and taken care of going forward. And
Right.
I have a colleague who does these kinds of videos down in South Florida. He just did one for a pretty egregious case. And within like a month of the other side, there were multiple insurance companies that got the video, and basically, their pitch was, hey, you don't want this to go to trial. These are all the people that are going to take the stand and testify. You ought to do the right thing here. And everybody did end up doing the right thing. They all tendered and said, yeah, well, here's our money. So it's the power of storytelling that we're trying to harness to help people, through video storytelling.
And I love that you've realized what you're good at and doubled down on that. I mean, this is all stuff that you've learned from, 20 years of broadcast journalism, and how, interview prep and all these things that you've listed on the website is all stuff that you've learned in the past, and you're still trying to tell other people's story and, help them get their word out. It's really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, that's one thing I hear from my former colleagues too in journalism, is like, oh gosh, I don't know that I have the skills to like go into corporate America or take on another role. And I'm like, you do. All of the skills we have are transferable. Writing and communicating are at the base of what we all do every day.
Absolutely. Well, what's next? You talked about podcasting. I love podcasting. I listen to podcasts a lot of the day, and I know you do too. And now you're kind of parlaying that into something that you already know a lot about as well.
Yeah. So in the course of my career, I covered a lot of true crime. I covered a lot of court cases because of where I worked and the kinds of newsrooms in which I worked. We were hard news operations. And over the summer, I was reconnected with a former news director of mine from 20 plus years ago. He actually hired me out of school. So I owe my journalism career to this guy. His name is Neil Gordon. And he's a publisher, he's an author, he still does a lot of journalism work. And for those who are familiar with the true crime genre and have been following cases, he got very involved in the story of Alec Murdaugh, who is the attorney in the Low Country of South Carolina who was convicted of murdering his wife and son. And back when this trial took place, it's almost been a year now, his wife, who's a professional photographer, got sucked into watching the live stream on Law and Crime or Court TV, and decided to go down to the Low Country with another friend of hers to capture pictures of just kind of the scene. And she came across all of these people who had driven, in some cases, hundreds or thousands of miles with their families. Like one family from upstate New York packed up their car with their kids and their dog and drove down to Colleton County, South Carolina, and waited in line for like 4 or 5 hours to get into the courtroom just so they could be there in the room to watch the proceedings. And she met a lot of different people like this and started documenting their stories and sort of figuring out the why behind what they're doing. Because for those of us who are
question. Is this just a hobby or is it?
Yeah, I mean, for the casual observers, we're like, what's going on here? Why would you like put your life on hold if you have a job and a family?
Yeah.
And
what we're on Netflix soon enough.
Exactly. Yes. What we're finding is all of these people have this why behind it, which is in a lot of cases, a past family trauma. They've been the victim of a crime themselves. One couple that we interviewed, it's two sisters actually, come to find out their father had been murdered back in the 80s and the killer was never brought to justice. And so subconsciously for them, going to the trial and watching the trial, this was like the second one they had gone to, was their way of seeking justice on behalf of their father. So we're finding all these really interesting stories. So Neil ended up writing a book with the clerk of court there in Colleton County that got quite a bit of notoriety because the attorneys for Alec Murdaugh claimed that she was using her position to tamper with the jury in order to get a book deal and become a media darling. Ultimately, a judge recently found that not to be true, and she was exonerated of that allegation. But Neil has written an anthology of stories about these trial watchers, and I'm writing several chapters with him. And we're going to launch a podcast called Trial Watchers, just about this phenomenon, and also try to tell the stories of these folks through a docuseries that we're going to produce. So if you want to learn more, you can go to trialwatchers.com. That's where we've launched the
I'm writing that down now. I want to tell my wife about it, but I feel like she might become one of those trial watchers, and I need to hear her home here.
You got to rein her in. Yeah, make sure she's not going to trials. Yeah.
Again, double down on what you're good at, telling stories, and you already know all of these things. So it's cool that you've taken all of these things and brought them together. Is there anything else you want to talk about? So you got like this long list of clients, and these are some big names: the PetSmarts, the Ecolab, CMG. Like, who's your favorite to work with? Like, what have you done for some of these companies?
Yeah, I mean, the Ecolabs and the PetSmarts, that was from my days at the healthcare company. They were one of our clients, and we did a lot of work with them on PR and some marketing efforts. Right now I'm actually doing a lot of work with a great marketing agency based in Dunwoody, actually. Yeah. They're called Liger Partners. They're off of Crown Point there in the perimeter in one of those high-rise towers there. And they're a business-to-business marketing agency. And working with them, I do a lot of earned media PR work for their corporate clients. They've got a large wholesale insurance company. They've got a healthcare company. They've got a fintech company. One of their clients you're probably familiar with, Fran Tarkenton, former UGA quarterback and Vikings quarterback. A lot of people don't realize that he is a serial entrepreneur who's been working his entire career, even when he was playing football. And he has a B2B software as a service company based in Buckhead, and that's one of his clients as well. So I've been doing some work with them. It's been a lot of fun. Like it's
cool.
It's a lot of varied work and great clients to work for. They're all, they really have great stories to tell, and I enjoy telling them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming from somebody with extreme ADHD, like it's nice to just be able to bounce around and do different things for different people. I'm sure that every client needs something different from you, and you're able to use your background again to improve what they're doing, their strategic consulting and all of their business planning. So that's cool. So we've got a lot of stuff here. The trial watchers, everybody look out for. If you need media consulting and pointing a business in a direction, Mike's your man here. Thanks for coming back on,
MikePetchenik.com.
MikePetchenik.com. And you got a lot of stuff on there. We only got into like half of this, but now we're at 20 minutes. So let's cut it off now. You might have to come back on and we can talk about like AR and all the other things that you're interested in as well.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you.